Hello and welcome to another TLDR US video. Yesterday, Joe Biden was officially elected president by the Electoral College, which means a number of things, including the fact we can now call him president-elect, without the whole comments section exploding. In this video, we'll explain what happened last night, what happens now, and if it's now completely inevitable that Biden will become the 46th president, or if someone could still get in his way. Before we start, thank you so much to everyone who's watched our videos in 2020. We've seen incredible levels of support from you guys this year, with TLDR US growing significantly. If you haven't already, subscribing would do us a big favour and make those end of year stats look even more fancy. Either way, thank you so much for an amazing year. We've discussed the Electoral College before, so I won't get into the whole debate about whether it's fit for purpose and why the systems are so convoluted, but to get everyone up to speed, here are the basics. The first thing you need to wrap your head around is the fact that the American electorate aren't actually voting for president. Instead, they're voting for electors who will vote on their behalf. Each state is assigned a number of electors, and those are the numbers that you'll remember seeing plastered across election maps back in November. The number of electors is broadly based on the population of the state, although it is balanced to try and give smaller states more power, which is why there's one elector per 143,000 people in Wyoming, while New York State has 520,000 voters per elector. Regardless, as we've established, people aren't voting for president, they're voting for electors who will then vote on their behalf in the Electoral College. Now, the name Electoral College is possibly a little misleading, as there's no physical space where the electors meet. Instead, each state assembles their electors separately, normally in the state capitol building or governor's office, where they cast their votes. These results are then sent to the US Senate. Well, they're also sent to a bunch of other places too, but I promised we wouldn't get lost in the weeds. Having said that, let's get lost in the weeds again for a moment, because who the hell are these people actually casting the ballots? Well, some of them you might know. For example, both the Clintons are electors in New York, and Stacey Abrams is an elector in Georgia. However, most of the others you will have never heard of, with them often being party officials like governors or elder statespeople. Over the spring and summer, these lists of electors are put together by the major parties, and depending on the result of the election, the electors are chosen from these lists. Most states run a winner-takes-all system, where the winning party in each state gets all of the electors. If you head to the US National Archives website, which we've cited below, you can find a full list of the proposed and certified state electors. And let's take Alabama as an example, well, just because it's the top of the list. Looking at the documentation, you can see the list of electors put forward by each of the parties as well as the independents. You can see the Republicans got around 1.4 million votes, to the Democrats 849,000. So therefore the Republican electors were selected to vote in the Electoral College. Yesterday in each state, the selected electors came together to cast their votes. Some states like Nevada did meet remotely because of COVID, but you get the idea. The electors cast their votes yesterday. In 17 states, the electors aren't obligated to vote the same way their state did. So for example, one of the Republican electors in Texas could have voted for Biden. In fact, even in the states that require electors to vote for who the electorate selected, not all of them have penalties for not falling in line. For example, Alabama had no penalty at all, so some of the electors we looked at moments ago could in theory have voted for Biden with no penalty, despite Trump winning the state. While faithless electors like these are possible, it's not common, because, well, there's not many people sufficiently committed to one party that the state chooses them to be an elector, only for them to then vote for the other side. It certainly does happen, but it's not a common occurrence. Yesterday though, the electors met virtually or in person across the country to cast their ballots for President of the United States. And, well, there's not much point trying to build tension because it's in the thumbnail, but Biden was declared victorious with 306 votes. Following the announcement, Biden spoke to the nation, making a call for renewed unity.
Last few weeks, officials in each state, commonwealth, and district, without regard to party or political preference, have certified the winning candidates. The Electoral College votes, which occurred today, reflect the fact that even in the face of a public health crisis unlike anything we've experienced in our lifetimes, the people voted. They voted in record numbers. More Americans voted this year than have ever voted in the history of the United States of America. Over 155 million Americans were determined to have their voices heard and their votes counted. That this election now ranks as the clearest demonstration of the true will of the American people. It should be celebrated, not attacked. Together, the Vice President-elect Harris and I earned 306 electoral votes, the same number of electoral votes that Donald Trump and Vice President Pence received when they won in 2016. At the time, President Trump called the Electoral College tally a landslide. By his own standards, these numbers represented a clear victory then, and I respectfully suggest they do so now. The Trump campaign brought dozens and dozens and dozens of legal challenges to test the result. They were heard by more than 80 judges across this country, and in every case, no cause or evidence was found to reverse or question the results. A few states went for recounts. All the counts were confirmed. The results in Georgia were counted 3 times. Didn't change the outcome. The recount conducted in Wisconsin actually saw our margin grow. The margin we had in Michigan was 14 times the margin President Trump won that state by 4 years ago. Our margin in Pennsylvania was nearly twice the size of the Trump margin 4 years ago. And yet, none of this has stopped baseless claims about the legitimacy of the results. May this moment give us the strength to rebuild this house of ours upon a rock that can never be washed away. This is who we are as a nation. This is the America we love. And that is the America we're going to be. Well, thank you all. May God bless you. And may God protect our troops and all those who stand watch over our democracy.
If you thought this was all going to go completely smoothly, though, you clearly haven't been paying attention to 2020. Remember those slates of electors we discussed earlier? The approved list of electors for each state based on the votes cast in the election and signed off by the governor? Well, Trump's not very happy with these electors, which is unsurprising because 306 of them are from the Democratic list, while only 232 are from Republican lists. To get around this fairly major issue, Stephen Miller said that an alternate list of electors would be voting in the states, which Biden won but Trump is contesting. These electors, well, they're not really electors. Having not been certified as the state's electors, they're just people casting votes which won't be counted. Trump's team did try to pressure state legislators to effectively try and overrule the official list of electors, pushing through the alternate Trump slate. But even in states with Republican legislatures, this move proved unsuccessful. This didn't stop the Trump-selected electors showing up in Georgia, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Nevada, and Michigan, all states that Trump says he won. The issue being that up until now, Trump's team have not been able to produce any evidence of voter fraud, and virtually all of their lawsuits have been thrown out. So unless something major changes, these alternate electors will be exactly that, and only the genuine electors will be counted, officially giving Biden the victory. So now that whole slightly convoluted system's all over, Biden can just wait to be inaugurated in the new year, right? Well, not quite. Remember earlier that I said that each state sent 6 copies of the ballot to various places, including, most importantly, the Senate. That's because on January 6th, the Senate needs to officially count the votes before declaring the winner once again. What happens between now and then? Well, firstly, UPS has until the 23rd to actually deliver the ballots. Insert lazy joke about UPS here. But that's not likely to cause much drama, with that likely to be saved until the 6th, the day where the Senate counts the votes. It's possible that Republicans could attempt to disrupt the count, with the possibility of senators and/or representatives raising objections. That and/or is actually pretty important too, because the objections only really hold weight if there's an objection in both the Senate and the House. For example, in 2016, Democrats in the House objected to the count, but no senators joined the calls, so it went nowhere. This time though, if Republicans in both chambers were to object, then both chambers would have to adjourn to consider the objections. If this did happen, each member of Congress would be allowed to speak only once during a debate on the topic, with each speech maxing out at 5 minutes. This could still make for a pretty long debate though if each representative spoke for 5 minutes. So luckily for C-SPAN viewers, the total length of the debate is capped at 2 hours. After said debate, both chambers would then vote on whether they should reject the state counts. This isn't all that likely to be successful though. They may have more success than the Democrats did in 2016, but since the passage of the Electoral Count Act in 1887, only twice has there been congressional objections, in 1969 and 2005, and neither passed the House or the Senate. Considering that the votes need a simple majority and both houses' approval, it doesn't look like the Republicans have the muscle needed. They could potentially get a majority in the Senate, if even the more moderate Republicans back Trump. But to win the vote in the House would require the GOP to convince Democrats to vote against Biden. That doesn't mean they won't try though, with many predicting some sort of battle to go down on the 6th. But without control of the House, Republicans don't have a whole lot of hope, which means that it's almost certain that Biden and Harris will be sworn into office on January 20th. Be sure to subscribe to the channel to be updated on the 6th for the Senate vote and on the 20th for inauguration. Special thanks to our Patreon backers who make videos like this one possible. And if you want to see your name at the end of videos, then you too can back us on Patreon. The link to that's in the description.